Bal a leisa si Ginwaith Effel. Otoma Gino, Haga Croio, Had Chimblis, Magleno, Rosso, Haguelini, Forno Doma, Hag Eton Osea, a Herthius Dower de Worth, and down Derio a Wallers. Otoma Huimistan, a Resek Erna Vodiano, Hacadonio a Grias in Tin, Tennis Scans Nerth Tannic.
A whim originally was worked often by ponies just going around and round like donkeys in a circle. Then it would have been worked by steam. The fact that it is now electrified only happened, I think, in something like the 1970s. But the whole function of it really was to take miners and materials up and down the mine, and also, of course, for bringing the ore materials back up. So it was basically to get miners up and down a dam site quicker than the ladders that I mentioned earlier.
My name is Ron Smith. I'm a volunteer engine driver for the Levant beam engine at the mine here in Cornwall. So here I am, and here's the engine. Lovely engine, lovely lady, and I can't get enough working with her. She was installed in 1840 and has been here ever since, and we believe that she is unique in being the only engine of this type built by Harveys that is still in its original position and still able to run with steam. We generate the steam using a kerosene boiler now rather than a coal boiler, but the engine itself is 184 years old, and she was built by Harveys in Hale, so she's not come very far, and she's a winding engine and not a pumping engine. She originally developed 46 horsepower and was able to bring a ton of ore up from the mine below, which in those days was 1,700 feet down, and she could do that in 4.5 minutes, so she did actually work quite hard. Steam comes through on the silver foil pipe from the boiler house through the regulator valve, which is controlled by this lever. And with the exception of the reversing gear, that's the only control that the driver had. There was no speed governor, and that led to the danger of the engine overspeeding. Indeed, in 1862, that's exactly what happened.
What caused the flywheel to burst, we believe, was a hempen rope snapping. So basically, once that rope snaps, you've got 1.5 tons disappearing down the shaft. You've got half a ton coming up, and this flywheel just flies. You can't stop it. There's no brake. That's a clamp, so there's no brake on this engine. So the engine driver actually just disappears out of the house as quickly as possible, because that thing is revving so quickly that it actually just bursts, and it burst out of the top and through the walls, and they found the bits eventually. Obviously you can't get these off the shelf in 1860, so this particular flywheel was put together in a very quick time, and that's the reason why you've got the wobble on it.
So in the late 1920s, money was tight. Mining was expensive, costs were high, and the price for the ore was low. And by 1930, the mine had to close for economic reasons. So she had another 5 years reprieve and went on until about 1935, and was just on the point of being scrapped herself when 2 enterprising men came in, and they were going to start work on her, but we were very close to the start of the Second World War, and suddenly priorities changed, and they did little more than coat her in loads of bitumen, oil and grease. And effectively that's the way she stayed, and for 52 years, untouched, almost forgotten, and then During that period, in 1966, the National Trust came in and they took over responsibility for the engine. Again, little happened, and by the late 1980s, they got together a group of volunteers who came in and started cleaning her up. That clean-up took 7 years, and it wasn't always the same group of men, and they certainly didn't work full-time, but they became known as the Greasy Gang, and are still known and referred to as that now. Fortunately, the National Trust agreed to putting in a boiler, but it enabled then the engine to be run and people to come and see it, and it's been a success ever since in that respect.
Gyno stuma a gan y ton, y sten Kernewek, in dan dor.
Obviously, with a machine of this size and age, maintenance is a major problem. With the site here on the edge of the cliff overlooking the sea, we're always very susceptible to damage. And just recently we've had a situation where the roof to the boiler house was damaged, letting rain in, and that meant we couldn't actually run the boiler because it wouldn't be safe with the weather coming in. It's ironical that we've got an engine that is 184 years old, that behaves itself, and we have trouble with the more modern equipment. I would certainly be keen that we maintain the engine as driven by steam rather than compressed air or electric motors, and that's maybe the way forward. We just have to wait and see. There's a lot of discussion being taken on which way we should go ahead. Life is very different to what it was during the mining days.
Ceheran spennis, morben o ffrapia, dawr o cachina, mesicha griansen, jag and tarth, mellow o glosa, na illans gwithan ilo, mes I ben, na letja son o cana heb warfare.